Common mistakes on a sponsorship application. Common interview questions. During a spousal sponsorship application, the sponsored spouse is often asked to attend an interview at a local visa office. The sponsoring spouse is usually not required to attend an interview, though this may be different for inland applications. Here is a list of potential interview questions that the principal applicant, sponsored spouse, might be asked at an interview for a sponsorship application. Some of the questions would only be asked for outland applicants, others for inland applicants only. Others are applicable to both situations. Communications between the two of you. When and where did you meet your spouse for the first time? Who initiated contact? How often did you contact each other before first meeting in person? How did you communicate? Where is your proof? How often did you talk on the phone? Do you have phone bills, emails, cards, etc.? And can I see them? Visiting Canada, if applicable. Where, which airport, did you first land in Canada? What date? How many times have you been to Canada? How long did you stay each time? Have you ever stayed in Canada without status, i.e. after your visa has expired? Why did you overstay? What did you do to rectify the situation? When did you leave Canada the last time? When did you leave Canada when you didn't have status? How long did you leave? Have you been admitted back into Canada with legal status since? Have you been issued any kind of document that authorizes you to live in Canada since you were without status? If yes, what type? And when is the expiry date? Has your spouse been to visit you in your home country? When? How many times has your spouse been to visit you? Where did your spouse land when he visited you? Which airport? Did your spouse ever go to your home country prior to your relationship? Did you go to Canada prior to your relationship with your spouse? Relationship questions. What is your husband's, wife's, partner's name? What do you call him, her? How old is your spouse, partner? What is your spouse's birth date? What color are his eyes and hair? Does your spouse color his, her hair? Does your spouse wear glasses or contact lenses? Does your spouse have any distinguishing features, birthmarks, scars, disfigurements of the body? Where was your spouse born? Which country and city? Does your spouse have any allergies? What is your religion? What is the religion of your spouse? When you and your spouse were dating, what would you do together? Do you have any hobbies? Describe them. Does your spouse have any hobbies? Describe them. What type of music do you enjoy? What type of music does your spouse enjoy? What kind of movies do you enjoy? What kind of books do you read? What kind of books does your spouse read? Have you or your spouse ever exchanged gifts? Describe them. Please explain the type of relationship you've had since your first meeting. What makes your relationship with your spouse different from that of female-male friends? Does your spouse support you financially? If I refuse this application, what will you do? Education. Where did your spouse go to school? Elementary and high school. How many years of school did your spouse complete? What degrees or formal training does your spouse have? In terms of education, would you say that you and your spouse's educational backgrounds are compatible? Employment. Where did you work in your home country before coming to Canada? What is the name of the company? What position did you hold? How long did you work there? What did your job entail? Did you like your job? What was your salary? What do you intend to do when you come to Canada? What degrees or formal training do you have? What degrees or formal training does your spouse have? Where does your spouse work? What's the name of the company? How does he, she travel to work? How long has your spouse worked there? What does the job entail? Does your spouse like his or her job? What is the salary? Living situation. Where does your spouse live? Whom does your spouse live with? Does anyone else live in your household other than your spouse and children? At what addresses have you lived with your spouse? Did you own any property with your spouse? What type of accommodation do you live in? House, condo, or apartment? Is it a rental or do you own it? If rented, how long is your lease? Are you both on the lease? How much is the rent? Who makes sure the bills are paid? How much do you pay for cable, phone, hydro, etc.? Marriage, if applicable. When and where did marriage proposals take place? Was your marriage arranged? When did you get married? Where did you get married? Who was at the wedding? How many people were at the ceremony? What day was the wedding held on? Who performed the ceremony? Do you have pictures of the ceremony? Who was at the ceremony from your side? Who was at the ceremony from your spouse's side? Were any friends present? Were your parents at the wedding? If not, why not? Were your spouse's parents at the wedding? If not, why not? Were your spouse's parents aware of the wedding? If not, why not? Was a reception held? When and where was it held? Who was present at the reception? Did you receive any wedding gifts? Describe them. Did you go on honeymoon? Where did you go and for how long? Can you show me pictures and receipts from the honeymoon, wedding and reception? Have you or your spouse been married before? Why was the relationship ended? Who initiated the divorce? What were the reasons for the divorce? What was the date the marriage was dissolved? Why did you marry your spouse? Since your marriage, have you seen your spouse? If not, why not? Tell me why this marriage or relationship is genuine. Why were you so rushed to be married? How do you explain that? Family members. Do you have any children from a previous relationship? If so, what is their relationship like with your spouse? What are their names and date of birth? Who has custody of these children? Do you have visitation rights? Spend time with them at your home or theirs? How often do you see your children? Does your current spouse have any children from a previous relationship? If yes, what are their names and date of birth? Who has custody of these children? Does your spouse have visitation rights? Spend time with them? How often does your spouse see the children? Do you have any children from your current marriage? How many children? What are their names and birth dates? Where are the children now? Who looks after the children? How many brothers and sisters does your spouse have? What relatives does your spouse have in Canada? What relatives do you have in Canada? What are their names and where do they live? What relatives does your spouse have outside of Canada? What relatives do you have outside of Canada? Has your spouse met any of your relatives or friends? Who have they met and where did they meet them? Have you met any of your spouse's relatives or friends? Whom have you met and where did you meet them? Miscellaneous. Did you get married to get to Canada? Did your spouse pay you to go to Canada? Did anyone pay you to go to Canada? Did you pay your spouse to sponsor you? If yes, how much?